Gamer fatigue's a real thing, like a real thing that we all have to deal with. I know that I deal with it on a regular basis, but how do you fix it? How do you switch away from it? And also, where does it stem from? As a dad who wants to make sure I'm not wasting money on games, buying new ones over and over again, or whatever it may be, I want to also make sure that I'm enjoying my games because I use it to reset and to, be a better person. I know it seems odd to say, but truly that's what ends up happening when you're using video games as your one way to relax. So today we're going to be having some coffee and talking about that. I'm drinking the Rwanda, it seems. That's what we're going with today. Let me know if you guys like this new angle, the seated. I really enjoy it. I do. It takes a little bit more work to set up to make sure the audio is good on this. The overhead cam I brought back. We're going full bore, dude. I'm really trying to lean into making better content and serving you guys, you dads, more. Because really the reason why this exists is because I, as a dad, would have loved for someone to do something like this for me, to have a space where I could relate, where I could talk to other dads, whether it's in the private Discord, private because I want to make sure it's protected, or if it's just in the comment section, or maybe, just maybe on, Twitter or something, or X. That being said, let's grind it up and get into this weird gamer fatigue thing, which I've talked about before, but I have some new thoughts. Someone made a funny comment. They said they are thrown off by the fact that I talk sometimes, and at the same time of me talking, nothing's happening in the background. That's an editing choice called a J-cut, where you link two scenes together, but the end of one scene is still showing while the beginning of the new scene's audio is playing. I might not be doing it perfectly. Editing's never been my forte. Talking's my forte. I seem to have locked in the conversational aspect of things, but I'm still trying to figure out how to do the other stuff. I was having a conversation with my good best bud over out in Utah, Chase, and we were talking about gaming in general. He just installed EmuDeck and got emulation going up on his Steam Deck, and I also have EmuDeck ready to go on my Steam Deck. And what he was talking about was how excited he was to play some of these new games. Now, him and I have pretty much all of the same interests, which is great. That's how you have best friends. In the way that we found that out was just by playing video games together. But we both love Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, all this stuff, 90s kids, Linkin Park, that good stuff. We skateboarded, just like a lot of you. You guys are all similar. It's target demographic. But anyway, we were having the conversation. He's just like, dude, these new games, there's just something about it. I'm like, I know, right? It's just kind of weird. And I mean, if we're looking at stuff that's going on in media right now, with like the Ubisoft stuff and just games not fully being fleshed out, the new games, the AAA scene is pretty brutal. But the new AAA scene is crazy, especially with the cost to play a lot of these games. Whereas back in the day, the worst thing ever, because everyone says that, back in the day, games were complete. You get a cartridge and play it on this guy, the Nintendo 64. You're either playing a good complete game or a bad complete game. I guess there's mediocre ones too, but expansions, they didn't exist. DLC, that wasn't a thing. All these things you didn't really have to worry about. Sequels, maybe. Sequels you maybe had to, get excited for, but the DLC debacle is not really something you had to worry about so much. And so I've been thinking a lot about it. I was like, man, am I just like losing interest in video games, or is it that I'm losing interest in what's being released? What's being released isn't serving me as easily as a father, who's someone who values not only my time, but also my money. The idea of playing a game or buying a game, pre-ordering a game, right? Again, Ubisoft's under fire, so it's an easy target here. But a game that, who knows what it's going to look? Who knows how it's going to play? Who knows if it's actually going to deliver on the promise? And they're really just riding a franchise at this point with Star Wars. But they have pre-order costing anywhere from $70 to $130 with the promise of being able to play the game early. Or if you want, you can sign up for the subscription, which I am adamantly against the subscription model more and more. Yes, it grants you access to games that you otherwise would not have played or purchased, but I am very convinced that as the tiers start to roll out, we start to see exactly what happens when subscriptions need to test to see if you are willing to pay more money. They take the base tier that you were paying before and getting everything, and then they drop it a couple bucks and make it even worse. And then they fragment all of the features and lock them behind the highest paywall. I don't like that. I don't like it at all. At first, it seems really, really good, and then it eventually becomes bad. The thing that we have to worry about with subscription services, the biggest one is as we become more accustomed to using them, we are not purchasing games. So when we decide that we are no longer going to continue using the subscription services, the libraries that we've become very, very fond of, the games that we've been playing on these subscription services and been, saving our money by using these services, as they increase in price and become less and less of a viable option, because when they were $10, they're now $25, $30 a month, you lose all your games, all of them. And that, for me, is damaging. You just look down the line at any subscription service that exists, and they all function the same. Anything from Netflix tripling the price over the years, well, not tripling it as much, but creating a fragmented tier system, and that tier system pretty much makes the base tier very, very lame and then pushes the top tier to be extremely expensive. Or stuff like Hulu, same idea, all these streaming services, right? So when it comes to the new AAA titles going to these streaming services, I'm like, I'm not going to use them. I want to play my games the way I want to play them. And I need to roll a dice to see what cup I'm going to get. So here we go. It's a 3, so that's green. I now have them set up the same order in alphabetical: amber, blue, green, smoke. So it's always going to be the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's pour off some of that Rwanda, let it sit for a second, and we're going to turn off the scale and continue the conversation. Anyway, the conversation that I was having with Chase, the deduction ended up lying on, or not deduction, the final thought was pretty simple. It was, maybe we're just falling out of love with AAA titles. And if you look at past 5 years of AAAs, there's been a lot of complaints more than there has been of praise. Sure, there's been some good games. I mean, Elden Ring's a great game, right? It's fun. DLC being as expensive as it is pretty intense. But whatever, Tears of the Kingdom, I thought it was fun, personally. I thought it was good. It's a complete game. That's what they said. They're not releasing DLC for it. It is what it is. I love that. That's good. Breath of the Wild, fun. Final Fantasy 16, I enjoyed. I'm sure that you can name a few yourself. There's a few AAAs out there that you're a huge fan of. But as time goes on, some of these AAAs become just more and more work. I know for me, for instance, Final Fantasy Rebirth, a game that I have loved playing. I still love playing it. It's fun. It's exciting. But I can't deny that the fact that there's so much to do is overwhelming. And it makes you feel like you need to do it. Now, I know you don't have to. You can just continue on and finish the story as is, because that's what you do with some of these games. You skip all that extra stuff. That's fine. I did that with Final Fantasy VII Remake. But for some reason, the way that this game has the dots, it makes you like, I don't want to leave a region unfinished, right? And it's overwhelming. And a game that I've really, really enjoyed playing, I'm like, man, it's just, I'm having a tough time getting into it more and more and more because of the amount of work that it takes to complete it. And I feel like he said such a funny thing. He said, I feel like AAA games at this point give you everything, and the house, the kitchen sink, everything. You just get so much in there, packed in there, that it's just overwhelming. And the story, in some instances, ends up becoming secondary to a lot of the stuff that you're doing. Jedi Survivor is a good game. There's a lot of stuff in there that, side stuff, all this, and expanded, and it's huge open world. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's open world games. But as I said, AAA games are starting to go in this direction where they're making big technological leaps, trying to showcase all the different things they can do and make huge games in immersive experiences as they advertise. And maybe for some, I know that for this dad, it becomes overwhelming. And as time has progressed and gone forward, I find myself gravitating more towards retro titles. Because these retro titles are, one, comforting, and two, it's kind of like the thing with music. They say that once you get into your 30s, you're just going to listen to whatever you listened to when you were a junior and senior in high school. That's just the way that life becomes. And I think it's really funny because though that's not like for everybody, I do find myself listening to just basically Atreyu, My Chemical Romance, The Used, AFI, Bleeding Through, Taking Back Sunday if I'm feeling weird, or, Sleeping Giant. I can go on. You want to get emo? Dashboard Confessional. Like these are the bands that I'm listening to on a regular basis. I'm showing my daughter fun stuff like Yellow Card, Newfound Glory. And like these actual bands, like I'm like, well, I listened to it when I was a junior in high school. I'm listening to it today and it's still great. When I'm feeling froggy and I want to have a good time driving, I'm not putting on the newest album by who cares. I'm probably going to go through Black Parade start to finish. And, once you get to Famous Last Words, you're excited. We have to also give honorable mention to Coheed and Cambria. I love Coheed and Cambria. Huge shout out to you, Wampa. At any rate, I find myself getting pulled back to some of these titles I played before, but then more excitingly, playing games of old, right? Emulation really grants that kind of thing. You can go back and check out libraries or games that you never got to back in the day. I know I personally am trying to acquire the proper hardware to play some games in the original form, because as life goes on and as I start to invest more and more into analog media, as I call it, even though gaming is somewhat digital, but analog media, I want to start to re-experience some of these things in original form. I think that'd be fun to do. I mean, we get really close with using this for Nintendo games, but I have a Nintendo 64 on the way. I would love to play through some of those games on the system, of course, within reason. I'm not going to go out and pick up a $500, game, because that's ridiculous. If I can find any cartridge between $20 and $35, maybe $40 at most, I'm willing to drop the dime on it, because I think that that'd be kind of fun to do. I'm not collecting for collecting's sake. I'm collecting for actual interaction. Same with my records. I have my albums I've been collecting, and I play every single one. None of them are to be like, check out this first pressed whatever. I don't care about that. I get stuff to use. I don't get stuff to look at. If I was to get stuff to look at, it's a waste of money for me. So when it comes to this AAA thing, I'm looking at this landscape and I'm trying to get excited about what's coming out, and I'm just not. I mean, I watched the indie showcase yesterday from Nintendo, and there's some cool stuff in there, some not. It's just whatever. And I'm not saying that new games are not going to come down that are going to be exciting, because I'm sure new games are going to come out. They're going to be exciting. I mean, they have to, right? We have to go down the line. The third installment in the Final Fantasy VII series is probably going to be fun, right? Kind of closing out that series, especially as Rebirth plays out. I'm sure Final Fantasy 17 is going to be interesting, but we're just seeing a weird shift too with some of these franchises that I've loved. I mean, for instance, I can't wait for Kingdom Hearts 4 because I like the franchise, but where is it? Here with Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, 3. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 1, man. I love that game. I played it through it so many times. It's such a good game. Maybe that's what I should play over on Twitch. By the way, I'm streaming on Twitch right now, giving it a good college try to see what it's like. If you'd like to join live streams, the link below will get you to the Twitch channel. I try to stream 5 times a week. That's why I'm over there, because YouTube doesn't like that. And yeah, retro games and emulation is a new frontier for me, emulation at least. Retro games are just me going back and playing games that I already have wanted to play. Nintendo granting me access to that on the Nintendo Switch is great. Playing old PS1 titles, PS2 titles through the PS Premium because I bought it for a year is fun. And getting into Game Boy Advance games that I've never played before is kind of cool on the Ambernick, but trying to bring stuff over onto the Steam Deck because it's just more convenient. I feel like we live in a really, really good time for video games, not because good games are coming out, but because games as a whole are out there to play. And the AAA scene is something that maybe, just maybe, we're seeing a shift away from. I don't know if AAA in general is going to be the dominant thing coming out. But it seems like all these AAA titles that have been coming out over the past decade have had one fatal flaw, and that is they're trying to be bigger and oftentimes fall flat, because when you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. Now, there are a few outliers, right? Again, Elden Ring being one of them. But these big, huge AAA releases, I just have seen so many more problems and so many more issues in the game, the release, the money behind it, than the experience itself. And I want to play video games to refresh myself and to be excited. And, gosh darn it, who cares what you play also, right? So if I'm someone who is in the video game space, right, publicly talking about video games, which is its own kind of thing, and I'm doing that more and more and more, and I'm not hopping on the next AAA game, just give me a little bit of grace, if that's okay. I feel like, why does this guy just keep playing old Mario games and Zelda games or Jak and Daxter? It's because there's comfort in it. There's excitement. It's fun. And sometimes it's okay, I mean, we watch the same movies over and over again because we like them. They make us feel good. Why not play some of the same games over and over again, right? I've watched Star Wars, so many times. It's something I love. So going through and playing Kingdom Hearts for the 15th time, gets me excited. Ocarina of Time, running that makes me excited. You know what I mean? And that's okay. If you're like, I'm going to go and get a Steam Deck just to play a few of my favorite games on the go that I've played 50 times already, that's a really cool thing to do. And I think that's a really okay and encouraged thing to do. I know that for me, my loadout as time has gone on has changed a bit, and my ideas on video games have changed a bit. But something that I'm really excited to look into is locking in a loadout that is consistent, but also just serves me well, right? Steam Deck allowing me to play games that are newer, indies though, newer, exciting, interesting titles, older games that are available on Steam, fun stuff like that. And the Nintendo device, right now being the Switch, allows me to play some of the titles that Nintendo offers me. That combo, tag team, will give me the maximum amounts of enjoyment, and also, financially is really nice. My PlayStation 5 grants me access to the AAA games that I wanted to play, the last one being Rebirth. And so once that's done, that device is perfect for me to play through some of the maybe some PlayStation games that I haven't played before, but I'm not really running to it. I'm running to my devices that allow me to play portably, right? Because I like that feel. I like the idea that I can play anywhere in my house. I may not play anywhere in my house, but when my kids are napping, maybe sitting on the couch, having a movie on in the background, or having some music going and playing in that form factor is better than sitting at my desk in my gaming chair. I like that flexibility. Also, it's kind of fun when you're out and about and you're like, I have gaming in my backpack. You may never use it, but it's kind of a fun thing to have, right? So I like that a lot. I know that when it comes to the whole landscape of gaming, I'd rather talk about the enjoyment, all the enjoyment that exists. And if AAA is disappointing and these companies are doing things like Ubisoft is doing, then maybe just leave, right? I'm not saying I'm leaving that area, but I'm just saying I get it. And so if you're someone who's like, dude, the AAA thing just is so disappointing. Hey, there's so much more out there. There's just so much more out there. I think that the indie scene is popping. And if we're talking about the future of gaming in general, I do believe the portable PC thing is the future. I 100% believe that. But realistically, I truly believe that when it comes to games, to the AAA studios, they're in trouble. I think that there's a huge push to see stuff like, oh man, Microsoft owns all these huge studios, so AAA releases are coming to the thing day one. I think we're seeing a big failure when it comes to the releases of these games. Huge, giant, massive games just hitting the market being like, okay. I mean, we're seeing some crazy stuff happen. Lies of P, not AAA, but awesome. Sea of Stars, not AAA, but awesome. Heck, even Tunic. Some of these games that just came out of nowhere and you're like, whoa, this is an amazing game. I think that that's really where the future of gaming is going to be. Hardware-wise, portable at some capacity. Portable PCs are the new frontier. Nintendo will always kind of hold their own. We don't know what they're going to do. No one knows what they're going to do. And as far as gaming is concerned, I think that honestly, the AAA scene, they might have had their stride, and we're going to be starting to see some indies really take the forefront. That's my prediction. I could be wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Let's have a conversation going. Please let me know also if you're going to join me over on Twitch when we hang out. That's kind of just our little chill zone. I love streaming. It's so much fun for me, and so that's why I do it over there. And if this right here, I have a lot of questions for you. If this right here is cool, the mic has to be back. I feel human again. I feel good about it. I love this thing. It's so fun to talk into and finally have the setup kind of comfortable. I need to figure out where to put my 4 box sets, my 90 volumes of One Piece. I can't get rid of this. I like this. I really like this. These books are so good. Bitmap books, check them out. This is so beautiful. And I can't get rid of the Akira shelf. Is Star Wars next? Do I ditch the Star Wars shelf? That's the question. No, I can't do that. Well, I guess they're just going to stay in their boxes until I get a second bookshelf. All right, guys, you guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And as always, that didn't work. Happy gaming.